All right, good deal. So I'm Andrea Michaels. I'm with NAMI, Oklahoma. And I'm going to turn it over. Paula Stafford will be our introducing folks and doing all the lovely questions. And so take it, Paula.
Okay, thank you. I'm Paula Stafford, and I'm with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Oklahoma. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I will tell you that one of my panel members has not shown up yet. I don't know if they're having difficulty logging on or what, but we're going to go ahead and move forward. And if they join us, we'll just join them right in. So we're going to talk today a little bit about what it's like to have a family member living with a mental health condition and kind of how that has affected our world, and then some of the things that we have figured out to do for self-care kinds of things along our journey, because it really is a journey. And so I will start. Deanne, you're going to get to be the star for the moment. Deanne Warfel is one of our family members, and I will let you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your family. Are you able to hear me well? Talk a little bit about your family, and we'll, after you tell us a little bit about that, then we'll go ahead after that and get into some of the questions about your journey.
Okay. Well, I'm Deanne Warfel. I have, my husband and I, Scott, have been married, actually, wait, how long have we been married? I should know this. 90.
Approximately is fine.
30 years? Are we at 30? 25? I think we hit 30 years. That's a long time. And we have 5 children. We have 2 biological children. My oldest, Madison, is 25. She is a behavioral therapist, works with kids with autism. My second daughter, Rebecca, is 23. She is married, lives in Virginia, husband's in the Navy, and we have an adorable 3-year-old grandson. Our third daughter, Hope, is married, but not living with her husband. She's living with another guy. She has our granddaughter, who is 18. She has another child she put up for adoption, has a lot of issues. She has a lot of issues. Our fourth daughter, Brooke, is married also. She's 20, and she is a senior at OU, majoring in microbiology. And then we have our fifth daughter, Kylie, is 12, and of course she's still at home. All 5 of our children have a mental health diagnosis of some kind, and they range everything from anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, autism, bipolar disorder, and reactive attachment disorder, and everything in between. Our youngest 3 children were adopted through DHS. Our oldest 2 are biological. Our youngest child, we actually got as an infant and fostered her for 2 years and then adopted her. The Hope and Brooke, who are the middle 2, they are siblings. And we actually had another sibling of theirs who we were going to adopt. She was 15 and pregnant, and that did not work out. But we were allowed by DHS to go ahead and adopt Hope and Brooke. They were 9 and 10 when we got them. And any of you who have adopted older children, you know that that comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of issues. And we adopted the 2 of them. And as I said, they were 9 and 10. And we went in, we thought with our eyes open, but not as open as maybe we should have been. So that's kind of our family. My husband is also a recovering addict, and my husband and I both have our own mental health challenges, just dealing with anxiety and depression as well. all of my children also have ADHD. My husband also has ADHD. So we deal with all kinds of fun things in our family.
Thank you, Deanne, for sharing. I mean, you certainly bring to the table a lot of experience, and I really appreciate your openness and your willing to share today. So I don't see Ellen on here yet, so I will go ahead and kind of try to fill in the gap a little bit, and say I also am married for about 30 years. And I have two children that were adopted at birth, and they both live with a mental health condition as well. And I do have a 18-month-old grandson that lives with us. And so I will kind of share a little bit along as well. So, and my next question, and I apologize, my grandson that my husband's supposed to be watching right now. If you hear him screaming, I apologize. Real life here. How did you first discover that your children had a mental health condition? Kind of share a little bit about that. And I know you've got several but just kind of in general, share that with us.
I will do that. I would say the first one that we discovered had any type of mental health condition was Madison, our oldest. And all of you who live in Oklahoma have experienced the tornadoes. And we were in our home when one of the tornadoes hit our home off. It was the one that hit over by Frontier City, and our home was hit, and we were in the home when it was hit. And she experienced PTSD. She was 3 years old and would not speak for about 5 days after that tornado hit. And we did not know anything about mental health diagnosis, but we did know something about PTSD. It was not long after the Murrah bombing, and we ended up actually taking her to the same therapist who had worked with the children in the Murrah bombing. And that seemed to be kind of acceptable. You know, it wasn't something that there wasn't a lot of stigma around that because we had been through the Murrah bombing not too long before. And it was kind of okay if your child had PTSD related to tornadoes in Oklahoma, and really didn't think too much about it. They did play therapy with her. She worked through that. Now today, she still watches the weather like a hawk. If there was a tornado, I mean, she could tell you about it. So that one was kind of our first entree into mental health, but I wouldn't say it was a real big entree into mental health because I don't think it really dawned on me that PTSD was really a mental health condition, because it was just, oh, she had it, we did play therapy, she's doing better, and that was kind of it. When we adopted and when we started fostering Kylie, we got as a baby, and at 6 weeks old, she experienced severe separation anxiety to the point that she wouldn't go to her birth mom during visits. And again, didn't dawn on me that this was some type of mental health issue. I just knew that I was exhausted because I could not put this child down, could not take her to a nursery. It was awful for that entire first year. Again, never dawned on me that this was any type of mental health issue. It wasn't until we got Hope and Brooke, and Hope, who was 10 at the time, of course, we had about a 6-month honeymoon period. And then there reached a point with Hope after the adoption was finalized that I began to notice some really odd things happening. I would find her on the floor in her bedroom. I could just peek through, and she would be crouched on the floor in her bedroom, picking hairs off the carpet in the bedroom. Or I would find her she had been in the bathroom, and I had one of those cutesy little candles, and she had picked all of the edge off of the candle, all the wax off the candle. Or I'd ask her to do her laundry, and she would have picked it would take her hours to do one load of laundry. And I began to question that something was wrong. And then she started throwing these, what we called fits, and she would just scream and yell and scream and yell. And it would go on for 30, 45 minutes to an hour. And at that point in my life, I did not think, I thought I was a bad parent. And so I didn't tell anybody. I didn't let on to anybody that anything was going wrong. She didn't do any of this around my husband. It was just when she was around me. So it was at that point that I just stayed home. I didn't, we homeschool. So we went to a homeschool co-op. And when she was at our co-op, she was perfectly fine. When we went to church, she was perfectly fine. So nobody outside of our little core family knew that anything was wrong. And so that was all good with me. So at home, we were falling apart. Outside of our home, we looked perfect. And I was all good with that. So I just let everybody in the outside world think that everything at home was good. And yet everything at home was falling apart. And it wasn't until I began to realize that I was dying because all of my other children who are having issues. Now, those of you who have children with autism, you can imagine if you've got a child with autism in the mix of all of this with another child who's throwing fits every day, you've got a toddler who has separation anxiety and who is hanging on to you constantly. And then you have older children, both who have anxiety disorders and are absolutely maxed out with all of this. And then in the midst of this, I didn't know at this point, but my husband was addicted to the painkillers, to Lortabs. So our family was literally imploding. And I was trying to balance all of this. And I finally reached a point where I literally had a nervous breakdown. I got in the car and I left my family. It was a Sunday morning. I was supposed to teach Sunday school, and I got in the car and left them. I drove and drove and drove. I didn't answer my cell phone. I didn't talk to anybody. I just kept driving. And I finally reached someplace about 2 hours away. My mom called and I answered the phone, and I just sat and sobbed in a Lowe's parking lot somewhere. And I said, I can't do this anymore. My family is falling apart. And so she talked me into coming back home. I got on the internet and I found NAMI. And all of a sudden I started looking through all of NAMI's information, and I began to realize that this was not me as a bad parent. People in my family had a mental illness. And so I picked up the phone, I talked to, I can't remember his name, but I really should have his picture like in gold in my house somewhere, because he began to explain, as a volunteer, and he began to explain to me and talk to me about mental illness. And then we went to a family to family course. And I sat in that first family to family course and cried the entire time. It was like a 3-hour class. And I don't think I heard anything through the first class because I cried the whole class. So that was my first entree into recognizing that maybe this is mental illness and not my fault.
Thank you, Deanne. You have a lot to share, and I really appreciate it. Ellen has joined us, Ellen Harris. Ellen, I'll let you welcome, first of all. And I appreciate you being here. If you would like to just jump right in, we're going to go back just a little bit and let you share kind of who is in your family, and just a little bit about your family, and how you first discovered that somebody had a mental health condition.
Okay. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Ellen Harris, and I am from the Tulsa area. We've been at this for a while. My husband and I have been married 35 years. This is a second marriage for both of us. So we have a blended family of a his, a hers, and an ours. interestingly enough, each one of the children has her own separate and unrelated neurologic issues. So we have our oldest daughter, who's functioning well and doing just fine in life, has a seizure disorder that she manages. The middle one, which brought us to NAMI, has developed schizophrenia, and the youngest one is on the spectrum. But he is also currently doing pretty well, but trying to work through some depression issues at this time. I'm going to take you back in time because, as I said, we've been at this a while, but I will make it short. My middle son was in college, and he had been acting odd off and on for a couple of years, but nothing we could put our finger on. Just kind of thought, well, we knew he was dabbling with some street drugs and that sort of thing. But then all of a sudden, he had a psychotic break. And it became very clear very quickly that he had schizophrenia, every classic symptom. So we had him in hospital. He was in hospital for about, I want to say 6 weeks the first time. Got out, got on medication, stabilized, was able to go back to TCC, made the dean's list, doing pretty well, went off his meds, had another psychotic break, and that was kind of the end of his doing well for a long, long time. For the next 2 years, or next year and a half, we struggled. We had no family support to speak of. My family was all out of state, as was my husband's. We had one child still in high school at home, this one very ill. And when he was discharged, they gave us some medication and a video that didn't work and some other information about schizophrenia, and that was about it. And a list of programs to contact for help, resources in the community. So I started making phone calls, and without fail, every single person that I called in the community for resources said, "Is he on disability?" And I said, no. He didn't qualify for disability because you know why? Disability has nothing to do with being disabled. Disability means you're disabled and you have no financial resources. So they said, call us back when you get him on disability. Right? No help at all. So I have this young man in my home who's psychotic. I mean, he's still psychotic. He's delusional, he's paranoid, he's afraid of everything. He doesn't understand anything. I mean, he was a sick young man, and he's in our home, and we got a high school kid, and we're trying to manage. And my husband's still, he had been laid off, thank God, but he was still trying to do some part-time work, and he has no medical background. I was a nurse, by the way, did not prepare me for this at all. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. I was so appalled. I was so appalled at what was available for families through mental health that I was disgusted with my healthcare profession. My experience in nursing school back in 1978 was better than what was available for my son in 2002. That's disgusting. So, needless to say, we struggled on through. I was the primary and basically the sole caregiver for a psychotic young man who was sick 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in our home, frightened of everything, not sleeping at night, wandering around. And finally, one day, after getting no help in the community whatsoever, and we didn't take him back to hospital. Why would we? He's no worse than when they discharged him. He wasn't a danger to self or others. So there was no help. So one day I was frustrated and extremely frustrated, and had reached the end of the rope for me, which is a long rope, 1.5 years. And I'm sitting at the breakfast table, and I told my husband, I said, I am so distraught. There has got to be somebody on the face of this earth that can help us. There's got to be somebody somewhere in this world that knows something that can help us help our son. I said, if I have to get on national TV, how am I going to do that? I don't know. I'll go to Walmart and I'll buy a rifle and I'll go to the mall and start shooting bullets in the air. My husband like, whoa, 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 whoa. So he somehow or another went through some stuff. He found a phone number for a NAMI support group. We finally connected with that and began the road to getting help for our son. We took the family to family class, and through the family to family class and the support group, we began to learn how to work through this crazy thing they call a mental health care system. Not a system, it was pieces and parts of things that might help here and there, but there was no system to it. There was no continuity to it. But we began to learn how to ask the right questions, how to demand in a nice way answers, how not to accept no from the first receptionist that answered the phone and said, well, call us back when he's on disability. We began to learn these things, but it was through NAMI. By that point, my physical state was not good. My mental state, it was hard on us financially, spiritually. We got no support from our community, okay? Our neighbors kind of pulled away. They were afraid of him because he looked and acted oddly. Never got a call or visit from the pastor, never got a casserole, never got a get well card, never got a phone call, nothing from our friends. So I was at the bottom. But we did the family to family, and that was our date night, by the way. That was my first opportunity for self-care was when we went to family class. I pretty much didn't listen. I probably participated, but it went right over my head. But it was the only time all week long that I could step aside and not worry. We had a friend who was getting her master's degree in sociology, and she stayed with our son for those 2 hours during class.
So both of you have mentioned that going to the family to family class was pivotal for you.
Absolutely.
In making that change. So the family to family class that they're talking about is a class that NAMI offers free to families that have a loved one with a mental health condition. And, you know, everybody comes to that class at a different place perhaps, but they also have something in common at the same time. It's a very safe place, a place that you can feel supported, that kind of a thing. So you both have kind of described how you finally got to that point of desperation, of, you know, feeling like you were just kind of at the bottom. I want to kind of change the dialogue a little bit now into, so during all that time, you both have commented the self-care was probably not there. And can you talk a little bit, and Deanne, I'll start with you, how that affected you, and if you have begun to turn that around, and if so, how and what that looks like?
Yeah. I definitely was not taking care of myself. I know now, looking back on it, how much I was not taking care of myself. I was not eating well at all. I was feeding my kids, feeding my family. It was rare that I could sit down with my family and eat, because either I was dealing with Hope and she attempted suicide 5 times. She was self-harming. You know, we reached a point that we had to clean everything out of her bedroom. She had to be watched 24/7. So, and that fell to me to do. So it was rare that I had a moment that I was not on, much like, you know, what Ellen was saying. You don't have that downtime because you are constantly watching. You're constantly looking, you know, has she got something to hurt herself with? Has she got something, picked up something? You know, you've taken all the knives, you've taken all, you know, you've locked up all the pills, you've locked up everything they can hurt themselves with. But dadgummit, she got the kids' jump rope. Now she's trying to hang herself with a jump rope. I mean, you know, everything you do, you're constantly on. And when that lasts for 8 years, you know, your body, that takes a toll on your body. And when you live in that state where your cortisol level is high for that long, it takes a significant toll on your body. And I did not do a good job of stepping back from that. And now I'm dealing with the repercussions of that. After multiple children moved out pretty close to the same time, we ended up downsizing. My husband ended up going to rehab. I wanted to go to rehab. I did not think it was fair that my husband got to go to 3 months out in the middle of nowhere for rehab. I thought, I'm the one that should go to rehab and he needs to stay with the kids. But no, he went to rehab and he's doing great. He's been clean for years and years and years now. It's wonderful. But anyway, he came back home. We learned through NAMI how to work together. We both have been trainers for basics, and that's another class. But I think going through NAMI has taught us a lot about taking care of ourselves. But after our kids began to move out, I realized I started to get sick. Within about 2 years after our oldest children moved out, I was diagnosed with lupus, then ankylosing spondylitis, multiple other autoimmune disorders. I have now been deemed disabled, and I am dealing with constant medical issues. I'm in therapy now, doing EMDR and multiple other types of therapy, dealing with secondary trauma from all of the issues that we dealt with when we had all of our kids at home. And we were dealing with all of the trauma that was going on in our home during that time. So I am now learning how to take care of myself, and I wish I would have done some of this during the time that all of my kids were at home. So looking back on that, there are a lot of things I would have done differently. And I know Paula will get to that point, so I won't go there right now. But I say to a lot of families who I talk to, I failed at taking care of myself during that time, and I'm reaping the problems of not taking care of myself during that time. But I'm learning now how to do that and how to journal, how to take that time to breathe, how to take that time for me, and how it's okay for me to take care of myself and to feel okay to take care of myself, how to do those date nights, how to do those times for my husband and myself to just get away. And those are things that I never felt okay doing. And those things are so important, especially when you have kids who require so much of you.
Thank you. Ellen, do you want to comment on the same thing?
Couple things, yeah. The trauma is so real.
Mhm.
I tell people in our support groups and our family to family classes, all of us as caregivers, we don't have PTSD, but we certainly have post-traumatic stress. It is a real thing. Give yourself credit, give yourself a break. Don't feel guilty. And I can remember thinking in my head, not saying to anybody, but thinking in my head, how can I do something fun when my son's life is such shit? How dare I have a good life when his is so miserable? Well, that's just wrong. That's just wrong, because you know what? I discovered that when I made my life better, it made him happier. So it was very important for him to see me taking care of myself, because he, at some point, as he emerged from psychosis, said, "Mom, I'm so sorry." Like, he felt guilty for making my life bad. And I was making it worse for him by not making my life good. So the other thing, I live with chronic depression. I've had it probably most of my life, not diagnosed until I was well into my 40s. But I fortunately was on medication at the time my son became ill. So I did at least have that in my toolbox. I knew that I had depression, and I knew I had to deal with that. So I didn't, even though I didn't take good care of myself, there was a minimal amount of self-care that I did do. Although taking a bubble bath didn't work out, because the one night I tried to take a bubble bath, EMSA was in my kitchen because my son had called the CDC or poison control because he thought we were putting poison in his medication. And so, yeah. So
So both of you have commented on some changes that you've made, and you've probably kind of alluded to this, but tell me what kind of support system you have now at looking at your self-care, and how you kind of have developed that.
Yeah. Big support system now. I'm obviously in therapy now, and I think I spent a lot of time then focused on my kids in therapy. Now, granted, when you have 5 children in therapy, that's a huge part of your day. I wish I would have had myself in therapy while they were in therapy, working on me. And I would have had time to do that while they were in therapy, but I didn't do that. And my husband and myself should have been in couples therapy at that time too, and we didn't do that. So yes, I'm in therapy now, and that is definitely a support for me. Um, Now also, and this is a little thing, but taking time to read books. I love reading, and I don't want to read books about all of the mental illnesses that my kids have and trying to learn more about them, or reading books about all of the crud that I'm dealing with or anything else. I want to read mysteries or just good books, and that can just take me away, and and not feel guilty about that, not feel guilty about the fact that I'm not researching something else that one of my kids has or something that I have. I just want to read a good book and escape, and that's okay. So that's something else I enjoy doing. Journaling, I have taken up doing a bullet journal, and I'm having so much fun with that. And just finding ways of either drawing or coloring, even just those adult coloring books. I'm enjoying watching movies with our 12-year-old. And I have watched some fun kid movies that I didn't get the chance to watch when all 5 of our kids were at home. I have watched some Disney movies and colored with her and done stuff that is just kind of goofy, fun stuff. And we didn't get to do a lot of that when you've got all the chaos that was going on. And it's just been nice to just step back and do some fun things like that and not feel like I have to feel pressured to do something else. So those have been some fun things. And I think realizing that planning, and especially now with COVID, you know, I like to do field trips and do fun stuff where we can go to a museum, go do something fun, but a lot of that we can't do right now. So finding things that are 5 or 10 minute painting fingernails or ordering pizza and doing something, but taking those opportunities to do things that are small but they're still fun, making it a pizza night or a fingernail night or just braiding hair night. And those are things that we just didn't get to do a lot of when everybody was in chaos. But those are some fun things. So, and to feel okay about doing them. That's where, those years, those things didn't happen.
Ellen, what about you and how you your support system now?
My support system now, a lot of it has been developed because of NAMI, but especially during the crisis. I mean, it's much easier now for me to talk about self-care because we're not in the midst of it. Our son is now pretty independent. He's doing pretty well. But back in those days, when I wasn't doing good self-care, the things, developing a friend or two, and you've got to have more than one person you can talk to. Somebody that even if they don't have a loved one with mental illness, that they have enough compassion to understand that it's hard for you and not be judgmental. So I never had women friends until my adult years, after quit working. So those have become very important. Women friends that I can text or phone call. I've developed some small craft things that I enjoy doing. I don't journal. I will never journal. I hate journaling. It is not going to happen.
It's not your thing.
Yeah. Another thing that I did during the hard years, every day I tried to add some beauty to my life because life was not very pretty in those days. So I would look out my window or open the door and step outside and look for something in nature that I found beautiful. And during the day, to try and draw that memory up and just for a few seconds, focus on beauty several times during the day. And it was a real simple, they're just a visual thing, takes no time at all. But it really helped me. It helped with my depression, but it also helped with all this going on. A couple other real important things I did. We turned off the news and quit getting the paper 30 years ago. I know what's going on. My husband's a news junkie. He gets it all. And he tells me more than I ever want to know. I can't deal with that. There's too much ugly out there. And again, I want to add beauty to my life. I want to add beauty to other people's lives. So shutting that out has really been a huge game changer for me. So I encourage you, give yourself permission to turn it off. Turn off the social media for a while if you need to do that. Unfollow people if you need to do that. It's okay. Give yourself permission to be who you are and to protect yourself and to protect your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And give yourself permission to be angry and hurt and to express that where you need to. I'll never forget one day me and God had it out. Everybody was out of the house and he and I were alone in the house, and I had people say, I mean, my prayer time is like, it was a screaming time for a few minutes. but I needed to express all of that rage and anger and pain. And once I did that, I was so much more okay and relaxed and calm. But I gave myself permission to be honest and to be real and to be transparent. The last thing I would say is one of the most therapeutic things that I have done is to help others through the same situation. So becoming a family support group facilitator and a family-to-family teacher, those things, and answering phone calls and things, that has really been therapeutic for me. I don't have the answers, but listen, and I can listen with empathy, and that's what we need.
So, oh, go
Can I
ahead.
throw in one more thing, Paula? I got off track and you just have to rein me back in, Paula. This is what happens with brain fog. But support systems, I have a very small support network, but my parents and my sister are like my major support network. And even though my parents are in their late 70s, they have been the absolute epitome of support network. And this is the funniest story, but I called my parents one day. Hope was Scott was at rehab. Hope was ballistic. And I thought, I'm going to strangle this child. And so I called my mom and I said, can I please bring Hope over? I can't take this anymore today. She goes, well, let me talk to your dad and I'll call you back. I did not even wait. I put Hope in the car and I drove over. I get in my parents' driveway and my mom comes out and she kind of whispers to me, she goes, you didn't wait for me to call back. And I said, no, I didn't, because one of us was going to die today if something didn't change. So Hope is here and I'm going home. I hope this can work for you. And it was that kind of stuff that if you can find somebody in your life who can be that kind of support, it doesn't have to be a bunch of people, just one person who you can just say, you know, today's the day. I have to be away from this person, even if it's just an hour, so that you have time to calm down. That's the kind of person. And it doesn't have to be anybody related, but that's the kind of people my parents are. And I am so grateful for that. But yeah.
It might even be a professional person.
Yes.
In Tulsa, we have COPEs. They're wonderful in a crisis situation. Give yourself permission to ask for help. You need it. Nobody can do this alone. I have had mental health professionals in my family-to-family class, and they're like, whoa, we had no idea how it was on this side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
It is, you give yourself permission to fail, to have a bad day, to be human, and ask for help. We had to call COPEs. We had to call the police.
Mm-hmm.
I had to watch my son, my beautiful, kind, sweet, psychotic son, be taken down on the ground, put in handcuffs, and taken off to the hospital in a squad car.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was the beginning of getting him some real help, long-term help. We had to finally make a decision to put him in a residential care facility. He stayed there for about 5 or 6 years before he was well enough to move back into the community. But it was better for us and it was better for him. It was really better for him. So give yourself permission to do what you need to do as a family. You know best. And it doesn't matter what other people think or what other people say. You have to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And wraparound services was another significant support for us. We're in Oklahoma City and we had North Care, but we had wraparound services that typically last about 6 months. I tell them we were in such dire straits. We had them for almost a year. But they were a huge support for us when Hope came out of her last inpatient stay. She had been in for about 8 months, and then they stepped in the day after she got home. And then they supported us for about a year after that and kept her out of inpatient and kept our home stable. And that was another significant support for us.
So you guys are fabulous at getting ahead of me, and that is wonderful.
Sorry.
No, you're perfect. No, you're perfect with that. So what I would like to do is, Andy, if we could open it up for if anybody has any questions or they would like to put in the chat, or if you want to ask a question individually, you can unmute yourself and ask those questions.
I'd like to ask Deanne, if that's okay, a question in regards to wraparound. What are some things that they helped you with?
Getting all 7 of us in the same room at a time and communicating without killing each other. They actually got all of us together and got us to a point where we were able to share how we felt. All of the kids were able to talk about their feelings about each other. And that had not happened. They were all in individual therapy, but we had not had full family therapy. And so to get all of the kids together, the kids had not had the opportunity to talk about how they felt about Hope coming home. They hadn't been able to talk about their fear when Hope ran away multiple times and how scared they were that she was going to run away again. They had not been able to talk about things that they wanted to do for fun. And it really gave all of us an opportunity to really vent. And then also they talked with us and taught us kind of how to have fun together. Because which is kind of you think, well, families should know how to have fun together. Well, I don't know if you've ever put 6 people together who have ADHD and asked them to play together nicely. It just doesn't happen. And I gave up on board games and all kinds of things a long time ago, but even just trying to get that number of people together to do anything fun without killing each other was almost impossible. So they really helped bring our family back together after years of just fighting and just barely tolerating each other and tiptoeing around each other. So it was just a really good way of helping us with healing. Wasn't perfect. Our family is still not perfect. But it definitely started the healing process.
I have a comment in chat before we opened it up. Pam would like to thank and would like to express her sincere appreciation for the panel's bravery to share much of their difficult but beautiful journey of healing. And she loves Kelly's headband.
Oh, that is cute.
So the chat is open now if anybody wants to put anything there, or certainly unmute yourself if you have other questions or comments.
I was going to say, I had my SOC Christmas party today and it was virtual. So I decorated behind me and wore it, and I don't realize it's on there. So thank you.
So I guess I would like to, if anybody in the group has a particular struggle with something about taking care of themselves, or has something that they do that works well for them, either way, if they'd be willing to just share that in a chat. Doesn't have to be too personal, but small things make a difference.
I also just want to say thank you to Deanne and Ellen for being so completely open and willing to share. And that's what takes the stigma away, is we're not alone in this world. And if we open up and we share with one another, we all have struggles. And so I really, really appreciate your openness and your willing to share. I want to thank you for that even now. So
I see Stacy said something about not knowing what's next. I think the other things about self-care that I would really encourage you to do is don't look too far down the road.
Mhm.
Today is all you have. It may be a good day. It may not be a good day. If it's not a good day, tomorrow will be better. But one day at a time, and look for the joy in the small things. I laugh. I was just like, I'm going to write a book called The Joy in Jello. Like, get some Jello and suck it through your teeth. Do stuff like that that's just silly. But find the joy in small things. And when your mentally ill loved one day comes in and uses the word dad to his stepdad for the first time in 8 years, that's a huge, huge deal for us. After 15 years, he actually cracked a joke. I mean, 15 years, he never cracked a joke. And then he came in and he made it up and it was funny. So finding joy in the small things, in washing your hands in warm water on a cold day, feeling the sun on your face through the window when you're sitting in front of that dadgum computer. Look for joy in the very, very small things of life. And it's amazing what that will do. But don't look too far down the road. None of us know what's next.
Mhm.
Tomorrow could be disaster for any of us.
That's right.
But today is what we've got.
And I also want to encourage you, I waited a good while before I went to see my primary care physician and then eventually my psychiatrist to talk to them about my own depression and anxiety. And I kept thinking, oh, I need more sun. I need more vitamin D. I tried walking. I tried lots of things. And my doctor did a really good job. He said, Deanne, your brain can only take so much. And eventually your brain just gets to a point where it is so tired and so stressed out that it cannot heal on its own. It's got to have some help. And that to me just really hit home for me and made me go, okay, I get it. And I think just like Ellen was saying, and we use in NAMI a lot, that put your oxygen mask on first, because you can't help anybody else if you don't have your own oxygen mask on first. So if you've kind of thought about, maybe I do need to go get some help, maybe I do need to talk to my doctor, if you've thought those thoughts, maybe you do want to go talk to your doctor. Maybe you do want to go talk to a counselor or a professional. It's okay to do that. You need to take care of yourself first. And there is no stigma in doing that. Typically, we're the ones who end up taking care of people. And it's okay to take care of yourself first. You're worth it. You are. I promise.
I love the picture of, if I have a picture here, well, here, look at this. Here's my picture. There's nothing in it. I can't give you a drink. I have nothing left to give you. I've got to go fill my pitcher up so I can give something to you. I guess I'm really visual, so those little kinds of things really help me out. But it's, when we say take care of yourself first, it just means, it doesn't mean being selfish.
That's
It
right.
means that you have to fill your cup so you can fill theirs.
Mhm. Yeah.
So our time is about up, but I do want to just say one more time, NAMI does offer family support groups. I mean, there are other support groups out there as well, but I just cannot tell you the power of being in a support group where you are supported by other families. They can share their experiences. They can share resources with you that they know about. And when you, especially when you're at that place where you're desperate and you don't know which way to turn and what to do, that's a great place to start, frankly, is to go there and get that support from others that are maybe not in crisis at the moment, that have been before perhaps, and they can kind of give you some tips and give you that support that you need. Maybe you can't carry your own load right now, and they can help you carry that load for a time and help you find that support that you need. So
Absolutely. I'd
We-
like to say one quick thing with the holidays upon us. The good news is everybody is suffering like we are this year because we're all isolated for the holidays and with our loved ones. Well, everybody's doing that. So take heart, you're not alone there. But whatever your expectations were, again, look for the joy in the little things. Find small ways to celebrate in your hearts and between yourselves and in your little space. Like Kelly, decorate your desk, put your hat on. Do small things that make you happy. Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Thank you, Deanne and Ellen, for your words of wisdom and your experience. And Andy has put our website in the chat. If you want to look on our website, we do have virtual support groups that are occurring right now that you can look into. If you're interested, you can contact our office and we'll be happy to direct you towards some of those. We often tell people visit more than one support group. It's okay. Do as many as you want, as often as you want. Some of them meet on Monday, some on Thursday, different things. And so, feel free to do that. I just, again, want to thank Ellen and Deanne for your time today, being open, sharing your story, and inspiring others to know that they're not alone. And that is huge. So thank you both very, very much.
And guys, there will be a survey sent out after this. Please fill it out. And if you want to be in a drawing, you can provide your email. It's not required. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you could get a wonderful door prize. But definitely please give us your opinion and fill out the survey. And we hope this has been a help to you guys.
It's only 4 questions, I think, so it's a short survey. So our session has ended, and Andy, you can stop the recording, and thank you all for attending today.